Welcome to July 10th gathering in the City of Lawrence Board of Parks and Recreation. Newest member of the administrative staff, Mr. Murphy, would you introduce yourself to the Parks Board?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Joe Murphy, former Lawrence North grad.
Nice.
Here in the mayor's office for Mayor Collier.
What are you doing?
My official title is Deputy Chief of Staff, and I'm just kind of in an advisory position in the mayor's office currently. It's a new position. I just started 3 weeks ago, so we're still kind of sussing out the edges of it.
He doesn't want to know about what everybody else doesn't want to do.
And little to embarrass young Joe. Young Joe was a state mile champion for Lawrence North.
Oh, nice.
And he ran down at Indiana University. Joe is one of the good ones. When you coach or teach, guys like Joe that makes either someone look like a great coach or a great teacher. The only thing we can do is screw them up. Freely admit that. All right. Got our minutes out. Everybody's had a chance to read, peruse. Are there any additions, subtractions? Thank you, Ms. D. I would entertain a motion.
I'll move to accept.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, Eric, give us a real quick 4th of July recap.
Monetarily, we did fairly well this year.
Of the money.
$16,199 from the carnival. In comparison to the last 4 years, that was about average. There was
Okay,
one
good.
year we had almost just a little over 20,000. That was 2 years ago. Yeah. So some discussion that going forward we might the carnival operator would maybe like to just do a 4-day show, 3 or 4 day show. It's same.
The 4th next year's on is it
On
on a
Saturday.
Friday? It's Saturday. Next year a
Saturday.
leap year.
It is.
Okay, so yeah.
So
Thursday,
having
Friday, Saturday.
maybe open on Thursday and have the DFAST day on Friday, Saturday and Sunday, and he's gone on Monday.
That'll work, yeah. Yeah, that'd be a way
so-
to do it.
Something to discuss, and he informed me in our meeting last night that he's already got his paperwork in for his employees to come back for next
Okay.
year.
Don't have
That-
to jump through the hoops like
Yeah,
we were on pins and needles on that one.
I guess that was due to the government shutdown. He had a hard time getting, he had put everything in automatically, and when the government opened back up, it somehow pushed all those requests out. So they didn't know that until, so it was this, I think, the third wave of employees when they finally got people in. So
And high five to Dee, dealing with the chaos that is the parade organization. So good job, Dee. Everybody was happy. So that's all that counts there. Eric, we chatted about this a little bit this morning. What's our timeline going forward for our master plan?
Well, we've got a meeting with Structure Point to discuss scope of services to get us a ballpark figure of where we're heading. So, city does a lot of work with Structure Point already, so they have quite a bit of it under the belt. So it should have ours go a lot easier if we do decide to go with Structure Point. So again, it depends on the cost.
Okay. Just not to monopolize, but just touching from last month, where are we at on Harmon Way paving, all that happy joyful activity?
We're still, well, as you know, the Sunnyside Road's closed now, and
Right.
that's the priority. And then I think we'll either be on the list after Sunnyside or after the, and Joe might be able to tell us this, I know that there's another big project out east, and I'm not sure if we'll be between those or
But we're in the loop.
we're in the loop, yeah.
That's all
I
counts.
think Lee Road, was Lee Road mentioned
Yeah,
in those?
yeah,
That's it.
yeah. Colleagues, anything for Mr. Eric there? Oh, and like I did tell you, they were beginning to move that dirt this afternoon,
Okay.
okay, out at Lee Road.
And you might just tell the board we got
We got a code violation, I think was, maybe, it was good intention, but the league out there at Fall Creek had some fill dirt, for lack of a better word, and not very good fill
No,
dirt.
it's dirty.
Yeah.
Dirty dirt.
Yeah, that was delivered, and it was, for lack of a better term, erosion leaching. And so we got a code violation notice. Eric, you have been in communication with Fall Creek, correct?
Yeah, they're either going to have it hauled off or used on site, but I think they're going to haul most of it back off site.
Yeah, because as I was driving over, they had a trailer backed up and a Bobcat that was loading it up, and
So
They moved some of it.
they know that they have to get it removed or put some erosion control material around it or something. I would imagine they'll just have it removed from site.
Well, what they do with it.
I mean,
Well, they were going to use it for
just holes.
filling in some of the low areas back on the, but
God, I saw big hunks of concrete and,
Yeah, it had bricks in it.
yeah.
yeah, I don't know, it's good intention, but, and real quick, I mentioned this to you, Eric, also. If they're advertising signs that they have on the big field out there, or any of their advertising, you know, do our leagues have their advertisers? I know they're supposed to report to your office.
And I don't have those, so I'm
Okay.
we'll send a reminder out to all the leagues because we didn't get OYOs this year either, so.
Okay, and I drove around, they're legit, but you get one chance to mess that up.
Just so Eric knows. So if there's any question, they can bring it to us.
Correct,
Yeah,
yeah,
yes.
and most of them are the same signs
Yeah, they're,
nearly every year, but it's nice to know that we know who the vendors are. And
I have one question. Since the 4th is, the big crowd is over now, is there any plan to fill in the big fissures that are coming through the top of the sledding hill?
yeah,
I like that fissure, it's like California.
They're not, it looks like a fissure
Yeah, it
now.
looks like the San Andreas
You
Fault.
could almost paint the top and make it look like a volcano, but
but again, we need good, clean stuff and so we're asking the other city departments to look for some, if it's good material that we can use to fill that in, because we need to seed it and put some erosion control on it, but yeah, it takes several truckloads to do it.
yeah,
It might even require a contractor coming out with a little dozer work or something.
really?
I don't know that we've got the equipment to push it up there. We might, or the
All sticks to do it.
street department might be able to do it with they've got a new excavator that they might be able to help us out with that.
All right, well, Eric, you got anything exciting for us?
Just briefly, we talked about the carnival, and again, as far as the public safety situations, it was there wasn't anything that we know. There was a kid that was caught with a firearm in the park, and he was removed. And other than that, the only other incident we had was Kevin Hendrickson with our fireworks vendor was actually his wife was injured. There was a shell that didn't go off or something, and she was crawling out to check on him. He got his bell rang, and there was a low one that went off, and she got some burns on her arm and her face. So, but I understand she's doing much better and going to be fine. But
A little excitement,
well, it's
excitement.
now you know why our volunteer fire department doesn't do it anymore.
Yeah, it's a good point.
And we did get the trees removed at Community Park, those 3 big, and we've still got a bunch more to take down, but we did get those down before the July 4th, just for the,
That was the nick of time.
yeah. And then we'll have another expenditure this month, and Virgil might discuss this in his narrative tonight, but the lights at Community Park on the baseball diamonds have been up for, Pearson Electric put those up in 1984, I
Yeah,
think.
35 years.
So,
The year you started.
I was gonna guess 30 years.
yeah.
That was the year Mitch McConnell was elected as.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So they're in disrepair, so I've got a price just to take the light fixtures down until we evaluate whether we can reestablish lights or,
Overhead.
before somebody gets hurt, we've got one that's
Dangling.
dangling on the,
Yeah. You got
that we've got to get off.
They get in the newspaper for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Eric, real quick, you mentioned to me budget timeline. Where are we at with that?
We just received our budgets yesterday. We've got until the 23rd to get them entered in. Department comments, then we'll start meeting with the mayor and the controller first week of August. And they'll be to the council 1st of September for,
Are you looking at any projects as such? Wishing our
since we've
lives away, but that's what
formulated our 5-year,
was that?
not on our 5-year master plan, we have a 5-year capital account that and I think next year is, what do we determine? Alexander Park, Explorer Park's this year. Alexander Park, new playground, keeping up on the vehicle fleets. And
Right.
as I drove in this evening with no air conditioning in my car,
You-
it might be,
I do it willingly because I'm cheap.
it might be time for a new vehicle for,
You've been fighting it too.
I hate it. I hate the thought of it. It's only got 95,000.
And no one knows who you work for except for the blue license plate. Best kept secret in the city. Anything in the budget report here, though, that should jump out at?
No, we actually went through it. We're using the overtime a lot.
Okay.
One of the things we've got to keep an eye on, but we will have enough for July 4th and
Right.
all that. So,
Got it.
but other than that, we look like we're keeping pretty
Pretty good shape.
good shape. Yeah.
Okay. All right. There's nothing else there. Virgil, step on up. You weren't here. I was lamenting about a season review in the middle of July when the second half of the major league season hadn't even started yet. God.
It's late early here.
Oh, I like that. Gets late early here.
That's all Yogi Berra said about left field and Yankee Stadium.
Yes, that's right. It gets late early.
Okay, well, the boss put me on a clock, and so I'll try to be brief. If you guys want more details, I can show up or meet you for lunch or whatever, do it in writing, submit questions. But I don't know what would happen to my organizations if I got struck by lightning, but I'm pretty sure if it happened to Eric, we just realize who's really in charge.
Yeah, that's right.
So.
We wouldn't have to look very far.
So I've given you a written narrative, but I'll try to even give you the Cliff Notes version of that. Baseball, I'm pretty close to ecstatic. We had a good season. About a month out, I was in a bit of a panic because our numbers were way down. We had really good baseball. We are at a level that I feel like it's a sustainable, entertaining league. We can have at least 4 teams in every division. And I think we can maintain that. We taught great fundamentals. They kept working through the season. By the end, I was seeing really good baseball. I was seeing kids. The teams were displaying secondary skills, defensive rotation. It was really nice. This is probably the best group of coaches I've had in a few years. The bad, we barely have enough money, and the weather, even though our fields were amazing and the parks department was incredible, I even praised them because they were cutting the grass in a better way to help reduce the divots, and it looked better, and our park was always, we try to keep it clean, but I know they do a lot too. And, you know, as I drive around, I know like on Rich Hart, just south of 46. There's a park going in there that's under. So I know they keep having more and more things piled on their plate, and I bet their staff and budget probably isn't keeping up. So if you see those guys in their truck, praise them, give them a cool drink, whatever, because they're really working hard, and I'm super grateful. And our fields were amazing. We lost very few games. Every one of our kids played 13 games at least before playoffs started. So we had a full season. And when I was looking on Facebook and the internet and stuff, there were lots of baseball that didn't happen this year, lots of rainouts and things. So I'm proud of that. They may not be beautiful, but they're always safe and playable. The bad, we barely had enough money, and the rain contributed to that because we lost the week before playoffs, and it's usually that week that I deliver a bunch of notice and let people know, hey, if you're not square, you're not going to be able to participate in playoffs. Those notices are still on my desk because when it came that Saturday, I couldn't surprise people and say, oh, hey, we're not going to have games because you don't have enough kids. So I just had to make a tough decision there. And it probably did cost us, between that and concessions, $45,000, maybe $5,000. So it was significant. But we're square. We're good to go. We can survive another year. And baseball is so easy that I could run a league of 300 by myself and fund it with a part-time job at a convenience store. It's not that hard. And we really had no ugly, there was no huge incidents, no blow-ups, no fist fights, no fires in the parking lot or anything like that. So, I'm ending I was the worst story in the park. We had a coach that abandoned his team like on opening day, and I took over the team. We didn't win a game, not one. The whole time I've been there, half of the time I'm winning championships, the other half I'm in championship. Didn't win a game. But I kept all my kids there. And I guess if there's going to be a bad story in the park, it's probably good that it's me. They can't cry favoritism. So that's baseball. If you've got any questions about it, I'll answer. And briefly on the lights, we do need to take them down so they're safe. I'd kind of like to see what the budget is. There's really, from my perspective, no reason at all that we should invest in lights for Diamond 3. In a perfect world, I would love to have them on Diamond 1. I took flack from my son because we didn't have our championship games under the lights. But I don't know if it's worth what the expense is to make him happy. But I do. It is nice to have that option because sometimes scheduling is a lot easier if we can have some night games. And people do enjoy them. But let's be realistic about what it costs. But I just can't think of a reason, unless you guys have a reason, to ever put lights on Diamond 3 again. We're not going to need them.
Okay. All right.
Well, to football, that's a different story. It's all bad. Basically, what I've been predicting for the last 4 or 5 years, it's here. It's happening. And we can run through this and I'll answer the questions, but to skip to the end, this will be my last season involved with LTFL because I can't do something that I'm ashamed of. And that's, if we don't significantly change something, if we don't decide that football is important, it's going to be a laughing stock. We're probably barely going to be able to sustain a reasonable rec league this year. I've tried to paint the picture. Football is under stress everywhere. We're not the only community. And it's fine if... I'm sorry. If we've made the decision that football is not important to us, that's fine, I guess. But if it is important to us, we have to do something different. And we have to do something different than most people are, because most people are failing at this. We've been punching above our weight for years with very little help. I can't outwork it. I can't BS it. It's just what it is. I'm going to do everything I can to help the transition be well. I would encourage everybody to be involved so that I am proven wrong.
Do you have someone or someone's in mind, or anyone has at least expressed an interest to step up?
Nobody wants to do this. And I don't want to build myself up unnecessarily, but I'm uniquely blessed because I'm self-employed. All of my work happens in the middle of the night. So if I just decide to go, I can be available if I need to be almost any, so I can line fields, I can cover. So even if you had somebody that was super engaged and wanted to, one person won't replace me because they're not likely to have that availability, no matter what their desire is. And I don't know that anybody wants to step up and be the person that's constantly saying no or give me money or you can't pay or play and football is hard. I talked about how easy baseball is. Football's the opposite.
Right.
It's hard, it's expensive,
The
and it's
parents are harder. I know that for a fact, yeah.
a different culture.
Yeah.
I love my parents. I love my kids. I think that football is amazing. I think it teaches skills that you can't learn. I'm a baseball guy first. I love baseball. But there are skills you can teach in football that you cannot teach in baseball or many other sports. It's valuable. It is modern, controlled football is safe. They're cherry picking stats to hate on it because
If you had to put a percent, I just saw an interesting story. If you want to look at youth participation and activity, the Aspen Institute just released a study. Soccer's down. 25%,
Everything's down.
From 2017 to 2018. Soccer participation. And this is where I'm leading on here. With soccer, it's still a safety issue and a cost issue. With youth football, what's affecting it more? I mean, if you had to give two
Okay.
answers, safety, like you said, misconception,
Okay.
cost.
my first point there lines it out. The Aspen Institute, you're right. All sports cumulatively
board.
are down
Yeah.
8 to 10%. And that's why you've got new things like lacrosse and
Yeah.
things that are popping up and growing. So soccer, football, baseball,
The traditional ones are.
they're in big decline.
Right.
Football, we only have about 22% of the participants that are in baseball, so we have a tiny base to start with. Good, well-managed modern tackle football is unfairly viewed as dangerous, so families choose other activities. Now, I don't think this is what's hurt us the most, but it's killed Carmel.
Yes.
Half of their league is playing lacrosse now.
Right. That I knew.
And if we were able to promote our league better and incorporate a wider demographic and have more affluent families, I'd probably see that here too. The reason I'm not seeing that is because I failed previously. The IFA, which is the travel organization, so that these are the most well-organized community-based. It's in enormous decline. North Central and Zionsville, they couldn't field a team this year because their leagues had shrunk to the point they don't have enough players. And I know these people. Scott Hyland at North Central is amazing. He's better than I'll ever be. And he's struggling. So it's tough. And then, our personal story is right now, year to date, we're down 11% compared to last year. And I'm really good at predicting my numbers and where we're going to end up. And we're more likely to end up worse than that than better. We're more likely to end at 20 than we are 5 as far as a decline. Because basically what's happening now is we're following the national trend, and we've for years decided we're not going to do anything about it. We really don't have the resources we have in-house, which goes to your comment about the parents. There are less involved options now. The whole travel football thing is, and that's a dangerous farce. I love my coaches, but if nobody paid attention to them, there's no telling what football coaches would do. And it's not because they're bad people. It's because the way they learned football 30 years ago is not the way you do football now. And they're not spending a ton of time on the internet and reading studies and learning best practice. They don't even know that the high school they attended doesn't do football the way they did football.
I'm looking down here, point number 3C, point number under C2, the rise of rogue groups in our area. I know there's been a couple of they're starting to sprout. I know how impactful have they been as far as siphoning off?
Oh, very much so. I lost 50 kids last year, about half of them to the Colts with practice by the sledding hill. And another half to the Hurricanes. And I hear through the grapevine that almost universally, the kids that went to those programs, their parents weren't happy. It was disorganized. They had fields without lines. They had games without officials. It was not a good experience. But at least looking at my registrations right now, only about 15% of the people that left are coming back because there's a pride issue. So they'll go to the Colts, have a bad experience there, rather than come to me, they'll go to the Steelers. Because they don't want to walk back on, they see it as an admission of failure or making a bad choice because they ran away to this better thing. They'd be welcomed back with open arms.
Where do the rogue teams play their games?
Well, wherever they can.
And they're
That's
not
why
a part of IFA.
Oh, no. And that's one of the disputes among us leagues because some people have mistakenly incorporated them for diversity to have, if your league drops down to 3 teams in a division, it's easy to get a game with these guys because they want games. And if they can get games at a real facility with a real field and real officials, they'll jump on it. Okay. And North Central's awesome, so they're not an example. But let's say Pike. What Pike should do is contact me and see if, the community-based people should work together to save each other. But so they get games wherever they can, and basically they have a pretty disorganized regular season. They'll get a couple games at Tab because Tab will let anybody play.
What type? When you say Colts, what kind of sponsorship do these rogue teams? I hate to use the phrase rogue, but non-IFA teams have. Why would a kid go there to play? And have you seen? I'm going to just keep it local. Our high school programs gravitate more towards the non-IFA teams. I mean, that's a whole list of questions I have there, but the first one is what kind of sponsorships?
There's a couple things. Parents will mistakenly pay more for a lesser experience because they believe their coaches. Parents love their coaches. So I get a coach that says, hey, these are 2 real examples. I have a coach that I won't let him keep all of his kids that he had this year, next year, because that would hose any new family or any new coach. So he's like, okay, I'm going to go there. So he tells everybody in the league he knows, hey, this is messed up, we've got this better thing, let's go. So he takes 15 or 20 kids with him, and then it's like, it's going to be $250 here, not $120, but it's so much better, it's a higher level, it's and so parents buy into that. And their expenses are actually less. They don't have a facility to maintain. There's a whole host of things that they actually save on. And it's not like travel baseball where you have to rent a field or a practice facility. All they need to do is go find a patch of grass. So they practice whenever they want, wherever they want, however they want. And, you know, I don't blame the parents. They're trusting someone that is trustworthy to them. You've got a guy that's been good to their kids. He's a good coach, and these are good coaches. I had one leave because I wouldn't let them keep all their kids, and another one basically because we wouldn't change the running weight because his kid wasn't going to be able to carry the ball. And they're great guys. They just made a bad decision.
What youth association are these IFA, under whose auspices are they playing under?
Right now it's not super well organized. It's not the way travel baseball is, where there is an organization and there are, you know, A, double A. It's not quite like that. It's really catch as catch can. But there are enough tournaments that even if you don't have much of a regular season, you can get plenty of games just playing tournaments.
And they're probably sponsored.
I'm ignorant on that. I don't know how well supported they are. They may be. You know, I don't know that much about that, to be honest. But you know, if you're the Colts organization and you have a team in each age division, you don't need to manage them. You don't need to. All you need to do is find a coach that says, hey, I can bring you 20 kids into third grade, and you join him. And then as he ages out, if he disappears, it doesn't really matter, because it's not, they don't have a league, they have an association. So it doesn't matter whether there's 200 of them or 40 of them. All you know is what happens on your team. So, you know, it's so much different than what we're doing, and it, you know, but to your other point, yes, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back. I had a conversation with one of our coaches, and he has joined the board, and he's active, and he's recruiting kids from those teams to come to Lawrence and play. And I understand it. Varsity coaches are in the winning games business. I wish we would do it with a little bit longer view, where we would grow our own kids, and I wish that time would have been. It bothered me a little bit that that time wasn't invested on our fields before they decided that it wasn't fertile ground. And I don't know how I keep kids on our fields in an organized, safe environment if a coach decides that he doesn't like the rules or whatever and he's going to leave. I can't even now say, oh, but stay here. We're connected to the township. This is your pathway to playing on Friday night. You're going to have a relationship with they're not going to have a relationship with the varsity coaches. My kids have never seen them. You know, if you go down a little bit later where it gets to the school, basically what I would like the schools to do is let us flyer the kids. Because our league is under pressure because, A, I can't flyer the kids in Lawrence Township, and that's proven to work. Every time I say that, whether it's, I paid to have lunch with the superintendent, and he says, yeah, I don't know why we have that policy. That should probably change. The mayor, everybody. But it never does. It never does change. And I understand we do email blasts, or my athletic directors, they try to promote us through the channels. And I might be wrong. But in years past, when we put a piece of paper in a kid's backpack, we saw them come back to us, and our numbers were greater. Then I get criticized because I've got too many non-Lawrence kids participating. So the last 2 years, I've not flyered IPS, who welcomes them. They greet me with a hug, and they're just so happy that somebody cares about their kids. But because I don't want to skew the numbers towards IPS and take that criticism, I've quit doing that. So we're in a box. And then the other thing I would want them to do is just show up. If a varsity coach showed up on my fields and said, oh man, what is this kid's name? What grade's he in? Third grade? He needs to keep playing football. We're going to see this kid on Friday night. He's something special. Those parents aren't going to go away from me. They're just not. When some coach some rec league coach says we've got this better thing over there, they're not going to leave, or they're going to be less likely to. And they promised me they would last year. I was going to have the mascot there. No, not once.
Well, with this said, I know I'm reading this point 4, kind of making this your last year. We are going to have a football season in 2019, so moving forward for 2019, we are going to have a season. What do we need to do from our end, from a physical standpoint,
Well,
to get you ready to go?
Here is my plan. I've got a board meeting this Sunday. I've already let them know this is my last year and that we're going to do a transition. So rolling forward, every task I have, I'm going to do my best to recruit somebody who's going to learn how to line the fields, who's going to learn how the draft is done. If you want to change it when I'm gone, that's okay, but at least you know a way to do things. And I don't know what my success rate is going to be on getting people to fill those holes. But it's my strong opinion that the talent is not in that group. What I am praying for is that this shocks the system, and that maybe there's an assistant coach at LC or a booster at LN, and they're like, oh my gosh, this can't happen. Football can't go. We need about 3 to 5 super interested people to say, I will do that out of service. Not because my kid's in the league, not because I need a rule change, not because I want to try to manipulate things, but just because I love kids and believe that football's a good thing and we need to save it. So I will volunteer for that. That's what we need. If you can find those folks, recruit those folks, I'll give them all the time I can. I will help next year as much as I can. I just don't feel like I can be at the fields in any capacity, because if I am, I'm going to undermine any leadership that's there, because they've done it for a decade, so they're automatically going to come to me. But meetings behind the scenes, I don't want it to fail, but I don't know how to make it succeed. I'm not the guy.
Beyond the running an organization, is the physical, is it going to be ready to go? When would we kick off?
First practices are the week of the 15th or 16th, whatever that Monday is, and then first games are 3 weeks after that. But no, we're in good shape. In spite of my crying over soccer tearing up our fields, they rebounded way better than I thought they would. They're not pristine or beautiful, but they're definitely safe and playable. We're going to continue to work on those. I've got guys wanting to do maintenance issues to the tower, and we're going to do some painting. The physical plant, and Rick Wells, of all the folks in the city, I love Rick Wells. I know he's a little controversial, but he does what he says he will do. He put in a free air conditioner for us 2 years ago. The old unit needed a reversing valve. So anybody that volunteers in the concession stand should be cool now, because we've got an overcapacity of air conditioning. Bathrooms are in good shape. Building just got a roof. Scoreboards work now, but they will break sometime through the year. So somebody's going to have to volunteer to be the guy that gets stung with a wasp and learn how to fix them, because it happens every time I open them up, and they're antiques. But no, the facility is fine. Now, if we had more help, it would be better. But
Eric, do you see anything that needs to be done in particular? It's a glaring safety issue, not cosmetic, but
No, I know they did get over and reseed and aerated the fields. Wasn't done soon enough to our liking, but at least it's done.
okay. And no one currently right now is using them on a regular basis?
It's the hurling group.
Right, I knew the hurling group was.
And they seem like a pretty responsible group.
oh, they're awesome. Hurling and lacrosse, the folks that we've had share the fields have been amazing. Like lacrosse, they canceled games
Right.
on their own because they didn't want to hurt the fields. we've had good neighbors. So the only thing that as I dig a little deeper, that approaches a safety issue, on the west side of the concession stand, the dirt has receded. So there's a pretty good step off from the pad to the ground. If we could throw some dirt in there and sod it or seed it, but other than that, there's just not a lot. A few years ago, we put tons of dirt out there. So the fields are relatively level and definitely safe, and they drain pretty well. The Parks Department it's pretty easy for me to go on a jag about the lack of support from the city and some of the people above, especially since some of them seem to personally not like me. But the Parks Department is an exception to that. They do everything that I think they should be expected to do and more. When I forget to let them know that I've got a pool truck coming and call them with almost no notice to see if I can get a fork truck so that I don't have to unload 8 tons by hand, RJ's there with a fork truck. So
Moving forward, I may have a conversation with a few folks as far as organization from a football approach, but it's up to you. I'll be blunt, it's up to you, hopefully. Hand the reins off to somebody that you can trust, key, and is willing to learn to do the job.
I hope that I can find that person, but I'm not optimistic right now. And
We're still going to have a 2019 season.
yeah, there will be. That's the problem. Kids are always going to play football, but are they going to do it in a safe, reasonable manner? Or because even if we didn't have football there, those kids that would be there, they'll find football.
They'll go play somewhere, right?
And so, we need to offer a better option. And it isn't a lifetime quit. This is a fit of frustration. I'm hoping that this is sort of the thing that makes people.
Well, we had the weather when we combined the football leagues. That was 5-6 years ago. Another stumbling block on the way that we faced then. We faced it with our youth soccer.
Well, see,
That's what we're going to have to do with this one.
when Pat showed up and, created his master plan for youth football, and, there was a letter sent out to all of us that, hey, here's what the township wants. We did that. We combined them all. And there were people that had been involved in youth football for years that were shocked. They talked about me like I was Jesus, like I walked on water, because they thought that was an impossible task. So we stood up an organization, but then we never supported it.
And that's where we have to get back, do some reflection. Like I said, I'm going to have conversations with a couple of people, and we'll see, we can get some support from above. Or even if we need to go back and, there's been some changes at the high school coaching level, definitely so. So we're going to have to step back and, buy a mirror and take a look at where we're at.
Well, the last thing I'll suggest, and I didn't include it on here because it just occurred to me, but shortly after we formed LTFL, I think it was the year following it or after that, Grant Nesbitt got a different position. And I thought, wow, this is amazing, because the way it was described to me, it sounded exactly what we needed. Somebody that had an overall vision for youth sports from high school all the way down. Unfortunately, it feels to me like there's been mission creep, and he's doing facility stuff.
Well, that's what you are getting there is a civics lesson. We're still a unique animal from a township level to city government level. I think a lot of people don't grasp that yet. I mean, we're two different beasts here, and we serve basically the same masters, be it taxpayers, be it the kids. But as far as a bureaucratic apparatus, no, we haven't reached that point yet. And that's where it's going to take, Eric and I have had this conversation already. It's where it's going to take some creativity, because I represent the city of Lawrence and we have lots of entities, like I said, 4 baseball leagues, and at least one of them are outside the city of Lawrence, okay? In Lawrence Township schools, the vast majority of kids who go to Lawrence Township schools are city of Lawrence residents, but a large percentage are city of Indianapolis, and that's a government bureaucratic. I don't see it as a charge of Lawrence Township schools to oversee city of Lawrence youth activities. It just isn't, because we already supplement Indianapolis to the tune of more than $250,000 a year of taxpayer dollars from citizens of Lawrence to subsidize city of Indianapolis residents so they can come and use our youth sports facilities free. And till we can get to a point where we can create a city of Lawrence youth umbrella, not a Lawrence Township. I grew up here, retired, will die here. But my church is City of Lawrence, and do what's best for the city of Lawrence. And I think that's a picture we got to get our hands around, because this Parks Department is amazing. For a city of almost 50,000 people, there are cities of 50,000 people in Indiana that have more in their park system than we do. But a big part of that is we are subsidizing the 17th largest city in America. Think of that. We're subsidizing the 17th largest city in America. And that cuts into our ability to provide even more. And until, though, we get that bureaucratic apparatus straightened out, it's got to be a city of Lawrence umbrella operation, period. I do not expect MSDLT or some other Indianapolis entity to do our job, and we don't want that.
Well, and, maybe I put my finger on the wrong guy, but, or maybe he needs to be hired by somebody, because he's super talented and brilliant. So I was excited when he got the position that I thought we needed. Maybe we need to hire somebody else and create a new position inside the city of Lawrence, or move him. But we need somebody that has an overall view, and then maybe me and Fall Creek wouldn't have to keep fighting over kids and seeing who gets them and who doesn't.
Point taken.
We're both too stubborn to quit, so.
Thank you for your work effort at both leagues. As you know, will always be.
Thank you.
Sleep's overrated, I keep telling people.
That's right.
I would add, my son played with Virgil a couple years ago, when he was in the 6th grade, and that year they won the Super Bowl, and he's kept that trophy in his room, and he really had a great time that year. So you ran an outstanding league, and he had a really great time. That was actually sponsored by the City of Lawrence FOP, sponsored his
Exactly
team.
right.
Our family was really appreciative of the work
God, yes.
and what you did that year.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. All right, anything else? Joseph, anything?
Not at all.
All right, there you go.
I would just throw in one
Yes,
more
sir.
comment, since we were talking about the lights on the field. We're going through at the school district level and replacing a lot of our lights. So you might contact Roger Smith. A lot of those lights are coming in with LED replacements. A little bit upfront cost, but it's saving tons of money, especially if you got a lifespan going back to 1984.
Yeah.
The electrical cost is,
Yeah.
savings is just astronomical and pays for itself pretty quickly.
Now, Burns, what were you doing in 1984?
1984.
That's the year Stranger Things is taking place.
Yes.
I've been teaching for quite some time.
I was working for Eric. I was bending and stooping. God, I was 21 years old and I had a little, God, I was sweet and innocent.
The coaching career was over.
1984.
I was in elementary school.
Oh, sorry.
I had a
The
question.
young,
Who was the group that was at the community building 2 days in a row? They had a big Cardinal bus over there for, it was American Coaches is who it was. There was a big ceremony over there. They put up a tent. Was that the same group that rented the fields once before that you said was a volunteer mentor.
No, that was earlier in the month, just last week.
Just this past weekend, they're a really large group and they were there 2 days.
I think it was a family reunion, wasn't it?
Oh,
Yeah.
buses?
Yeah.
Are you kidding? 2 days?
Yeah.
They rented it all weekend.
Good Lord.
Yeah, it was a big deal. It was a big deal.
It was a big, I thought sure it was that same group that was there before because they were all yellow, they had like uniforms and, wow. Well, too bad. I was thinking, gee, we need to find that guy because he might be able to
Yeah.
virtual, but I didn't know it was a family reunion. That's a surprise.
I know that many people in my family. All right, I would make a motion, we adjourn. Anyone else? Let's get out of here.
Be careful.